Thank you for joining us for CNTV. I'm Brad Klonge along with Quinn Tran. With the rise in COVID-19 infections, Chickasaw Nation health officials stress responsible distancing, masking, and vaccinations.
We're able to bring you this episode both fully vaccinated and taping remotely. Public health officials with the Chickasaw Nation say mitigation efforts are key again in the fight against COVID-19.
And one of the feedback that I get a lot of times is, I did vaccination. I followed all of those rules. I completed the entire vaccination series. Why do I need to wear a mask? Delta variant really changed the trajectory on our efforts and our response to the pandemic.
Dr. Molina, the top medical news, the FDA gives full approval for the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine. What does that mean, and what does that say about the vaccine?
Quinn, that is really major news because there are a lot of individuals who have been waiting for that approval, including us in the medical community, but also everybody in the population. There is a standard that we know that comes with being FDA approved. And I think really that standard is going to be safety. If there's an approval from the FDA, we have a good feeling and a good sense that what we are receiving is something that's safe. We still know that the best part of the vaccine and what really it was meant for is to prevent these severe illnesses and death, to keep individuals out of the hospital.
The Chickasaw Nation Department of Health has moved COVID-19 testing and vaccinations to the Emergency Operations Facility on Craddock Road in Ada, Oklahoma. Drive-through testing is from 7 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon. Vaccinations are from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Testing and vaccinations at health clinics in Ardmore, Purcell, and Tishomingo are available at those same times Monday through Friday. Vaccines are offered to everyone at no cost. Go to this link to schedule your appointment.
In other health news, the Chickasaw Nation joins other First American tribes in Oklahoma in a blood drive challenge. The Oklahoma Blood Institute says there is a blood supply shortage. Citizens, employees, and community members are encouraged to give blood. The donation benefits hospitals, health clinics, and patients in need.
The blood drive will be a challenge between 3 tribes, the Chickasaw Nation, Choctaw Nation, and the Muskogee Nation. And we actually started August 1, and it will go for 6 months. There are special events, blood drive events that are set up between now and January. The staff from the Oklahoma Blood Institute actually staffs the blood drive. We'll be there to assist, but they're the ones that do it. They're the experts in making sure that everything's done the way that it should be and that, all the safety precautions. And then the other thing is that the Oklahoma Blood Institute has set up a hotline that you can call if you have questions like, do I qualify for a donation? Maybe I gave 2 months ago and I don't know, well, is that too soon? Or maybe I had this kind of diagnosis earlier in my life, and so I don't even know if I qualify. So they've set up a hotline number that people can call in and, very confidentially share that information and get your questions answered. We will continue to do blood drives. That's just a part of what we need to do to make sure that we have a safe supply of blood in Oklahoma so that we are ready for whether it's a premature baby that's born that's going to need blood, someone with chronic disease, someone that was maybe in an auto accident. Every time you donate blood, you have had the opportunity to save 3 lives. And I think that is amazing. I don't think that we can say that very often about things that we do. We're always hoping we make a difference. But we know that if you give blood, that blood product is going to be used to save 3 lives.
The Intertribal Blood Drive Challenge continues until January 2022 and includes about a dozen public blood drive events within the Chickasaw Nation. Get more information on how you may help donate blood by contacting the Oklahoma Blood Institute or visit its website, obi.org.
Jared Tate is a Chickasaw classical music composer known for his award-winning work. The United States Department of State has named him a cultural ambassador. He's among 31 people appointed with that recognition. As cultural ambassador, he'll serve on a month-long multi-country virtual tour, engaging with international audiences through public concerts, interactive performances, and workshops. The Chickasaw musician says this is a unique privilege to expand the world's view of modern North American Indians. We spoke with him recently about a project underway, a collaboration with Chickasaw citizens Margaret Roach Wheeler and Joshua Henson. Here's our conversation about Shell Shaker, a Chickasaw opera.
Yes, Shell Shaker is a Chickasaw opera, literally. It's going to be sung entirely in the Chickasaw language. And it is a version of how we acquired shells for our stomp dancing and social songs. So that's why it's called Shell Shaker. And it's a beautiful, beautiful story about a young girl whose name is Loxi. So she's basically an unexpected hero. And so, but she, in her journey to find herself, she's actually instructed by the river when she has a meeting with the river. The river tells her to go to the woods, basically to find herself and find her meaning. And in her time in the woods, she is taught cultural things and how to live and everything by all the animals. So she befriends all the animals, and she befriends another turtle that becomes a really dear friend of hers. And when it's time for her to come back, she's gifted the shells, and she's instructed to take these shells back to the dancers who are actually waiting for her, because they've already had a vision of her return, and they didn't know what she was going to return with, but they were singing and dancing without the shells until she came back and then bestowed that on the tribe and entirely changed our culture.
Is this the first opera for you to compose?
Yes, it's the first full-length opera. Josh and I did an oratorio 4 years ago, and an oratorio is similar to an opera, but not quite an opera. But that was also sung entirely in the Chickasaw language, and that had to do with a very ancient migration story of our tribe.
The music is sung in the Chickasaw language. Who best to translate than Joshua Henson? Josh, how unique of an opportunity was this for you?
I mean, translation is a normal part, of what we do on a day-to-day, but being able to use the language in, frankly, what I really consider to be a very contemporary way was a really cool and unique opportunity. I mean, this isn't to say that, the language is incredibly old, and the art form of opera is also quite old, but being able to bring these two things together in one space was really cool. And I think it shows the power and the resilience of the language. It also shows that it's living and active, and it still, matters. Why not sing in Chickasaw? We've been doing it for thousands of years. This is just a different form. Maybe it's an artificial distinction, but there's something different, at least in terms of like artistic interpretation, right? Through words. There's a difference between translating. Like if I'm translating for you in court, I have to express as literally as possible what you said, but using whatever language we happen to be speaking. Whereas in this project and the last project we did together, the oratorio, Misha Sipogani, it was really this push-pull between Jared and I. He would present passages and we would sort of negotiate, like, how can this be expressed in Chickasaw? How can we both make something that's intelligible in the language, but it's also respective and reflective of the original English? You know what I mean? So there's a lot of sort of back and forth. In that way, it's real organic and dynamic. And this is really the way I prefer to work. All of my best things are, in relationship with other people. That's fundamentally what being Chickasaw is all about, right? It's our relationships with one another. So yeah, it's really cool. I like being able to use the knowledge that the old folks gave me in these last 20 years to do something what I think is really awesome.
Well, I have to tell you that an aspect of this project that I'm looking forward to is the stage presentation. And with that is the regalia. Margaret, you shared with me some of the sketches of the regalia for this project. I can't wait to see it all come to life. Tell us about that.
Well, it's always such a pleasure to work with Jared, because as we talk, that creative energy seems to go back and forth. That's what I love about the creative process, is collaborating, working with other people, getting ideas from them that I can then translate into what I want to do for the project. These are just rough ideas of getting started. And it's just always exciting to come up with ideas for clothing that is expressive. And then, as I told Jared, I love opera for the costumes and set. And every time I can go to New York, I try to go to the opera. And the costumes are so elaborate that it was going to be a real challenge for me to take something like a simple off-shoulder dress, that I feel like should be more elaborate in opera. But it's a challenge that I'm really excited about, of making these costumes so that they are the quality for a national show.
Does a project like this involving fellow Chickasaws keep you connected or rooted to your heritage and culture?
Oh, I definitely think so. And bringing it to life is just excited. And when I heard I was going to be working with Josh, I have never really worked with Josh. I was excited. So I'm hoping we do get to have some meetings that I can get some play back and forth of what the costumes, to me, I like to hear from everybody of what they're thinking the costume should be. And Josh is an artist, would be a great resource for me too. And just the lyrics alone and all will be also an interest to me.
We understand one another. We have the same sort of cultural background, we have the same, in many cases, shared values and a commitment to our community, and we express that in different ways. So when we all get together and do this work, it's not any different than our ancestors were doing 500 years ago. Let's create something beautiful, just like they did.
Everybody in the world is like this. We're both monolithic and we're diverse at the exact same time. So, but then the part that makes us monolithic is that we're all Chickasaws. We are modern Chickasaws. We're entirely rooted in our ancient traditions and our ancient knowledge. And we're also modern people, just like everybody else was 2,000 years ago. And that, to me, I feel it. I feel like I'm part of a stream of time. It's like we're part of this flow of time, and there's really no separation. We're just part of a continuum of folks that came before us, and I personally feel that, and I believe that Josh and Margaret feel the same thing. We're always talking about past and now. It's like we go back and forth between that because it's almost like time doesn't exist, and it applies to people all over the world.
The premiere of Shell Shaker at Chickasaw Opera is set for March of next year in Springfield, Massachusetts. The piece will be performed with the Mount Holyoke Symphony at the University of Massachusetts at Amherst.
We travel now to central Oklahoma. A Chickasaw citizen will participate this month in the 43rd annual Edmond Arts Festival.
Kelly Langley retired from education and rediscovered her passion, photography.
In the early 80s, which was my time in school, photojournalism was really considered a man's occupation, particularly in this part of the world. And so I finally had to give up on that. And I ended up going to school and graduate school and education. And along the way, one semester, I found myself short of funds and had to sell all my camera equipment to pay for books. And so, like so many of us, I just sort of wrapped that dream up and stuck it on the shelf and didn't touch it again other than, family photos, that sort of thing. And I left it alone for about 30 years. Then about 5 years ago, I asked for a digital camera for my birthday. Digital, of course, was a whole new world. I was used to film and the darkroom when I was in college, and then suddenly here was digital, and it was, there were so many opportunities, and you get instant feedback on whether it's a good shot or not, and then you can the post-processing that you can do on the computer were just, I don't know, it was a marvel, and it was such a learning curve, and I have really enjoyed it, and I still really, in many ways, consider myself a beginner in that I'm learning something new every day. There is so much to see in Oklahoma. I knew we were a diverse state and we had many topographies, if you will. I was just amazed every time I would go out that I would see something different. Travel and revisit places where I really didn't have much time before and really investigate them and find new treasures all over this state. So much out there reminded me of growing up. I grew up in Elgin, Oklahoma, down by the Wichita Mountains, and we could see Saddle Mountain and Mount Scott from our back porch. And we used to watch it all the time, watch the storms go by. And my grandmother would talk to me about the storms and how they developed and how they would go around the mountains. And she was a painter as well. And she would take me out to the Wichita Mountains to paint. Photography allowed me to be creative, even though I really didn't have the skill to paint like she did. So that's what reminds me of when I'm out taking photographs. I think about the weather, I think about the mountains, and just growing up in rural Oklahoma, there's so many scenes that take me just straight back there.
Seeing Kelly's work inspires us to take notice of nature, grab our own cameras, and capture the beauty around us. View her photography at aroundthebendstudio.com.
The Chickasaw photographer will be showing her work at the Edmond Arts Festival, September 10th through the 12th. Well, we hope you've enjoyed this episode of CNTV. Quinn and I will see you next time.